Hey guys, it's me, Seren, back with another video. So this is going to be a video on Toronto, but before I even start talking about Toronto, number one, please ignore this Wonder Woman shirt. I got this shirt for free at WonderCon, and I like that it said DC, and I just pretend that Wonder Woman isn't even there, because you guys know how I feel about Wonder Woman, the Wonder Woman movie. Toronto. So Toronto is very, very loud. So this video is not going to be the same style as my Portland video, which was just like a straight walking vlog. It's going to be the same style as my Detroit video, which was basically a voiceover, just intercut with video footage that I took while I was in Detroit. But Toronto, so it was my first time there. I've been to Canada before, but I went to Niagara. I saw Niagara Falls, which is like very like woodsy and very, I don't want to say country or like rural, because it's not that, but it's just very woodsy. Now, where I was in Toronto, I was staying in downtown Toronto, is not woodsy at all. It's very metropolitan. It's very cosmopolitan. It reminded me of New York. It reminded me of DC a little bit, but I would say that even DC has like a bit more of a kind of like woodsy even vibe, because like in DC, for example, there's all these rules about like the buildings can't be too tall. They can't be like above a certain amount of stories, because it's supposed to be that you can see the Washington Monument and the Capitol building from anywhere in the city. So we don't have buildings over a certain height in DC. So, but even in Toronto, there's like fucking skyscrapers and shit, like as if you're walking around New York. So in a lot of ways, Toronto felt very familiar to me as just a city, and again, like an urban area. But it's like, oh, but this is like not any city that I've ever been in before. It's extremely clean. They have a streetcar thing that like runs up and down, in addition to like cabs and like all that good stuff. We primarily took cabs or walked or took the train. They have a train, they have a bus. We took the bus. They have a pretty decent public transit system there. From what I could tell, Toronto was it appeared, now anyone that lives there or knows more about Toronto than me, you can feel free to like let me know in the comments. It appeared to be very multicultural. Like there's lots of Black people there. There's lots of, and also I was there for Caravana, so I also know that there were probably a lot of people there, like specifically for Caravana. But I arrived in the middle of the week, and we were staying in the downtown. In the downtown area. So I was about to say downtown New York, in the downtown area. So we saw a lot of people that were like going to work and stuff like that, wearing like work clothes. Everyone is like very chic. Again, I don't know if this is just like in relation to it being downtown, but there's a lot of like chic, put together people. Just very urban, and not in the way that white people use the word urban, and very multicultural. Lots of brown people, lots of what appeared to be East Asians, lots of what appeared to be Middle Eastern, lots of what appeared to be East Africans, which I feel like Toronto is known for having like a substantial East African population. Just like a lot of different races and ethnicities, kind of just walking around, which was cool. I actually did not see, I'm looking for a picture there it is. I actually did not see very many white people. But I do know that Toronto and Canada as a whole, as much as people like to try to pretend that like, oh, that like America is like so fucked up, which don't get me wrong, America is fucked up. That America is so fucked up and Canada is like our like perfect, neighbor cousin to the north. I know that Canada has like their own problems with racism, anti-Black racism, as well as racism against Muslims and also the indigenous population. I've heard that like the racism against the indigenous population in Canada is extremely bad. And they actually have these signs. Let me try and see if I can show you. It's going to be backwards for you guys, but they actually have these signs. It says, "What do you call a Muslim woman flying a plane? A pilot. Break the behavior. Racism is no joke." And they have a lot of these signs with like different racism stops when we break the behavior, take the pledge online. So they have a lot of these signs that refer to like racist jokes, which also kind of is like, kind of like a red flag, like a giveaway, and like, oh, so you guys like definitely have a fucking problem with racism here. That you have to have like public service announcements to like not be racist. But I mean, shit, we probably need some motherfucking public service announcements here in the United States also to not be racist, rather than have people just pretend that everything is fine. But so I arrived Thursday morning, like late Wednesday night, Thursday morning. And Thursday I mostly just like slept all day, and then I woke up and everybody was like going off about that whole colorism shit, which like led to me making my colorism video. And then me and my friends basically bought like a package for Caravana that included going to the parade on Saturday and then just like going to all these other events. So it was like a concert, various like parties and outdoor events, and then Saturday they had a huge parade, and they had all the bands come, and everybody was like dressed up in all the different costumes, and it was my first time at Caravana, and it's interesting because number one, like in New York, for example, at my school, I had a friend that was black. His girlfriend was Guyanese, but she was like what they would call like a coolie, like an Indian Guyanese. Like, I don't know how exactly to describe it, but like an East Indian Guyanese, kind of. And there's a lot of like Indians in Guyana. There's a lot of like Indians in Trinidad. So it's funny because like we're at Mas, we're at the parade, and I had been to like a lot of Caribbean stuff before, but a lot of the Caribbean festivals and stuff in New York as well as in DC are like really dominated by black people. And even though this festival, Caravana, is also pretty much dominated by black people, there's also a lot of coolies. I feel like, now I'm saying coolie. I feel like coolie is not an offensive term. Y'all can let me know if that's a mistake, but I don't want to say like, I don't want to keep saying like Indian, but you guys can let me know. So there was like a lot of like, you know, like non-black Guyanese, Trinidadians, what other ones did I see a lot? My friend is Antiguan. There was like a few Antiguans. So one of my other friends was like, oh, I'm like surprised. I didn't realize that there were like this many like non-black people in the Caribbean. And I'm like, no, there's actually a lot. So it's really interesting to like go other places, which people love to say whenever we start getting into these conversations about like nationality and ethnicity and being black and all these other things, like, oh, black Americans need to travel. And I agree that like everyone needs to travel to like see outside of their country and see the way that people are living. But it's also very interesting that this is like a stigma that is like really specifically attached to black Americans, like that we don't travel and we don't know shit. I'm actually quite well traveled. I've seen a lot of shit. I've actually seen black people like all over the world. So, and I've also, like I said, I live in New York, which is like a really, like, it's really a melting pot. You meet all these different types of people, and they have a really sizable also West Indian and Caribbean presence there. So you also see lots of different types of West Indians and Caribbeans. So it's really interesting to just like be in this like super multicultural place, but multicultural doesn't necessarily just mean like black. That was really interesting as well. But unfortunately, we weren't able to do very much outside of, because like the package, you buy the package and it comes with all the events, you know, and the events are in these like blocks of time. So you're just, your whole day basically is like occupied from like the minute you wake up till you like go to bed. So unfortunately, I wasn't able to do too much like outside of the carnival events. But I want to go back. I want to get back to Toronto because I really did have a good time. I enjoyed it, and I would like to see what the vibe looks like, and I guess what the population and stuff like that looks like outside of Carnival, outside of Caravana, and just to like see some other things and travel around the city a little bit more. But overall, I did have a good time. I did enjoy it. It's a beautiful city. So lots of beautiful people. And Caravana is just a fucking blast. Like, it's just a blast. Like, if you like festivals, if you like music, especially if you like soca, if you like reggae music, or if you just want to go see, it's very much like another culture. So if you want to like see that, I would definitely 100% recommend, like, go. You have a great time. So again, I'm gonna have I'm going to have the video clips from Toronto, and hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Bye!